My name is Heiko Weber. I'm a professor here for applied physics here in Erlangen, and I'm also area leader in FAIRmat. And the reason why we made this workshop is because not only FAIRmat is worrying about research data management, but the entire community, and we have to bring all these effects together because CRCs, collaborative research centers, are a major driving force, I would say, for research data management. And this is not my mouse, which is dancing there. Okay, here we go. What qualifies me? Well, not only I'm speaker of FAIRmat, I'm also just submitted a CRC sketch, and I was also a reviewer of this, so I'm a little bit qualified, at least, in this topic. I will talk about why we should at all worry about RDM in a collaborative research project, which could be a CRC, Sonderforschungsbereich, or an excellence cluster. I put this together, it's similar in some sense. I will talk about the contributors, whether an INT project or not is suited, and make some proposals, what could be written as module, as ideas into this. Well, we all know that the traditional way of thinking about data is more or less this. We were planning an experiment, somehow we were collecting data, so this is how we do the experiment. Then we think about it and make some analysis, and finally we publish it, and the data disappear on some CD in the shelf. That's the old style, and if you want to recover the information from this old data, let's say 5 years after, it's quite difficult for me, for my own people even. Okay, and this must change. Why? Because data are such an important resource that we cannot disregard it. So the new data life cycle should be like this. We plan, we do the experiment, we do the analysis, but then we worry about sustainability of the data, because the goal is finally that one else, whether it's myself or somebody else, can work with these data and use them as a resource for further science. This is data-driven research, which we are preparing. So why should collaborative research project worry about research data management? Let's just take the perspective. We plan an excellence cluster with a cool logo, and I call this cool materials for a bright future, or something like this. And take this perspective. Why should this one worry about research data management? So when you apply for such a CRC or an excellence cluster, typically people promise that they will perform world-class science along highest standards, right? That they are shaping a new field of science, that they will intensify the collaboration. So these 20 or so projects that are inside. This is what is typically promised. And if you do so in an empirical science, you should worry about what is wrong with it, or how can we best benefit from the data. And in particular, if you are expecting your field, cool materials for a bright future, to become a data-driven research in this field, then you should worry from the very beginning about data. So we have an intrinsic motivation, I would say, in our empirical fields to worry about how to route this data. Okay, so I see no reason why such a CRC should not be interested in a competent and sustainable handling of research data. And just for those who are not at universities, there's CRC is about, we have like 20 or so projects, we have some 25 principal investigators, typical numbers, and there are 1 to 3 universities incorporated, plus some additional folks from other units. Okay, and this is similarly for excellence cluster and for Sonderforschungsbereich. So let's talk about the contributors, because this is really important to understand. Well, the basic contributor is the CRC consortium. Okay, the SFB consortium in German. So this is the speaker, and there are some people who define and coordinate the RDM measure. They say how they want to have it. Okay, and they define what's needed actually. But there are players in the background, and the most important ones are this one, the individual projects. Because this is where the data are generated, this is where the data are analyzed, and this is where they are stored. Okay, you should worry about these individual projects and how to get them in the basket. Okay, and then there's in the background somehow the university, which provides basic services, and there are the NFDI consortia, which have recently been found. And not to forget, there are the young folks, staff and students in the background, which are most important perhaps for some people. Okay, and to make it even more complicated, there are often several universities in the background, like 1 to 3. There are external scientists, individuals from Max Planck, from Fraunhofer, from somewhere, which have their own RDM rules. And there are typically CRCs, not only in physics, but spreads over to engineering, to chemistry, to mathematics, whatever, depending. Okay, so it's not a homogeneous construct that we are facing. Well, in Germany, we are in the fortunate situation that we have this NFDI consortia, and here's a list. This started early in 20, we started in 21. These are consortia all over the place in science, so engineering, health, agro systems, human history, and so on and so forth. And we are FAIRmat. We are here for the condensed matter physics, or solid-state physics, if you want. We have 2 good neighbors, or 3. Data from photon-neutron experiments. This is the large facilities in solid-state physics. There's Mathwerk, which is more engineering-oriented, and there's chemistry and NFDI for CAT, which have, chemistry. It's a neighbor of us. Okay, there are holes in this picture. For example, our neighbor field of optics is not touched at all, not covered at all, and there are many, many holes in this picture. Okay, we are FAIRmat, and FAIRmat is one of those NFDI consortia that I mentioned here, and we elaborate domain-specific general concepts. We are providing open-source software solutions. We organize the community process. This is where we are here, okay? We organize our community somehow, and that's such they are enabled, empowered to do research data management. And we work on efficient workflows and prepare AI concepts and so on. So overall, we are transforming research data concepts in our field of solid-state physics. This is a group photo 2 days ago of our consortium. We want to connect and to collaborate with you. This is why we are here, okay? And this is why we make this workshop. We will share all the concepts. We will provide recommendations and solutions, but the topic is complex, and we cannot deliver everything you may imagine. Okay, some people said once the NFDI is settled, we can rely on them. We can just keep, they should do the work. This is not true because the consortium is not small and not big, but we cannot, fulfill all expectations from the community. You have to help, and the SFBs have to help. So let's talk about these contributors. I mentioned already the NFDI consortia, and if there are 2, like one in chemistry or physics, this is not very homogeneous as well. Okay, but we have universities, and this is a major contributor. In principle, the universities should provide, as she discussed, storage concepts beyond the lifetime of the project. Okay, if everything happens to our SFB, the data are promised to maintain for 10 years. Whatever happens, this is not easy. And they should be understandable after 10 years as well. Well, the university can provide basic server functionality like electronic lab notebooks and ELNs. They should provide the administration, update, support, single sign-on, etc. I know that not every university has decided yet to do so, but this is what they should do at least. And obviously, the universities should worry about IT in general and in particular information security. This cannot be taken over by the CRCs, not at all. In Erlangen, we have a very nice situation. We have a competence center for research data and information, a CDI, and there's Markus Walter somewhere here in the audience. You may contact him. It's a support unit which provides a sustainable storage concept for long-term. It provides ELNs, like not only one, but several of them, OpenBiz, ELAB FTW, Chemotion Lab Folder, and Nomad Oasis in particular. And we tried all of them. They are provided to everyone, and you can single sign on. They do the server, installation, updates, administration, so everything that is better made in a computer center than with us. Okay, and they elaborated a list of price and services, as Dr. Hödöhl mentioned, for which DFG funding can be requested, and this is part of their financial construct. Okay, this is how it should be. If you want to learn more about it, contact Markus Walter. He must be somewhere. Can't find his face right now. Okay, then there are the individual projects. And individual projects is our community, in a sense, if we have a CRC in mind, okay? And as I said, the workflow is organized in the individual groups. Most often, even within the groups, data are not harmonized. I have difficulties to understand 5-year-old data from my group, I must admit. And if you have such a group, like 25 people, there are some who are enthusiastic about RDM, and are willing to join. There are others who are more reluctant, and have some difficulties and thinks this is probably not really important, and so on and so forth. And there's everything in between. So this is how it is. Our community is not 100% enthusiastic about everything, okay? And we should take this serious, I would say. We should strengthen the active groups and drive forward the positive examples. Okay, that's obvious. Strengthen the strong. Then we could formulate clear expectations and rules to the entire consortium, like if you publish, publish also the data and provide with a DOI at some repository, maybe Synode or what. And this should be clearly communicated, I would say. Then we should emphasize that even within the groups, there is benefit from harmonization of data. I would like to understand my 5-year-old data. And this is important, we have to convince the students, okay, because they are those who do the work and they have the pain on the everyday basis. And I would also recommend, don't formulate your RDM concept too rigorously, because if you say, we will fully, everything will be perfectly fair and so on and so forth, this is not fully, can barely be fulfilled. And this is why I said, let's be patient with those people, because they have good reasons that they are not in front of everything at the same time. Okay, let's go to this part of contributors, the doctoral students, staff and students, okay? I'm very much with Dr. Redöhl that this is an important field of action, and this is why we spent a mini workshop on RDM education in physics. This is today at 3:30. Convince the young scientists, they are the driving force of everything. We should, however, be also a little bit realistic, that the young scientists, without any advice, may have a tendency to reinvent the wheel and to write, software packages that already exist and not to connect with something else. So they should be guided such that to, align with existing concepts to make everything stronger and not create an encapsulated solution again. But this is important, and we have a nice concepts to present here in Erlangen and this evening. This afternoon. Well, should we do an INF project or not? This has been already visited by Dr. Redöhl. If you opt for no INF project, the research data management is left to the individual projects and somehow orchestrated by the central administrative project. You can request money for harmonizing local storage and repository, software solutions, and data steward who organizes all this. But in this case, someone has to take over the responsibility and advice. This could be the speaker, or this could be a sort of research data committee within the CRC, but this has to be organized. If you do nothing, it's not organized, okay? And it should be clarified who decides what. But if you opt for an INF project, then you have to denominate a principal investigator who is in charge of it. He or she has to elaborate a project with work packages, which are well defined, and the project should contribute, and this is in the guidelines of the DFG, to the overall CRC goals. Okay, there should be an intrinsic motivation to do so for science. And the project should also bring forward RDM in a research community, not an encapsulated, not only for a specific place, but, being felt by the community, by the worldwide community. So one should take care for vertical and horizontal integration. I think this wording comes from the DFG forms. Vertical, I don't know what it means, but you have to align with it and not to have an encapsulated solution. It's never wrong if you say vertical and horizontal, everything is there. You have to align somehow. Well, let me propose some modules, what could be in there, just to make it somewhat more by examples. You can say we do ambitious storage concepts. Ambitious storage means we provide structured data along the data schema, for example, to Nomad Oasis, okay? If you have structured data, you can later on work with the data. This is preparing interoperability so that you can take your data and those of a colleague in Canada and compare, okay? And this is where Nomad Oasis is very strong. You may also check for experimental data to share the FAIRmat Nexus proposal for structured experimental data. It follows an ontology that you may further extend in your INF project, and then you can immediately interpret it by Nomad. Okay, and support might be given by tools like Nomad Camels. This is our experimental control software, which is with a highly structured data output. There's a workshop tomorrow here where you can learn about this. So for this, you can apply for a data steward, because NFDI alone can't do it. And if you download Nomad Oasis, it won't be easy. Actually, it needs some experience and so on to benefit from it. We can give advice, obviously. Electronic lab notebooks, that's important because properly kept paper laboratory notebooks have been a cornerstone of good scientific practice for decades. And now they are replaced by electronic lab notebooks, evidently. But the ELNs are only powerful if the data are, again, nicely structured. If you just write your information on a digital scale and it's not machine readable, that's no progress, okay? But if it's machine readable, then you can, for example, dream of, I write the method section automatically upon key press using LLMs, whatever. Okay? So again, we need data stewards which have to configure these ELNs. You can't take them from the shelf and expect that they do the job for you. You have to work with it. Okay, this is something you can write in such a module. There's a problem with conflicting software and structures. If you have such a complex arrangement, you should be aware of some universities decide for this, some universities decide for that, external scientists in Max Planck have lab folder, and so on and so forth. So you should worry about all this friction that comes along and be prepared for this. Okay, it's not an easy landscape for ELN as an INF project. Well, in an SFB, you want to organize collaborations. And as Pepe already pointed out, Nomad Oasis, the federated Nomad Oasis is a nice possibility to do this. If we have an electronic lab notebook here in, say, Karlsruhe and one in Oldenburg, then you can exchange by partial data transfer. You can open your electronic lab notebook to your colleagues and work over from one university to another. That should work. Okay? ELNs can be mutually coupled in this landscape, but also data can be structured. Access rights can be organized. Okay, and finally, you can also publish it on a Nomad repository. This should be just a mouse click away then. So in order to exploit this, again, data steward, it's not for free. Okay, you have to somehow have a responsible person. Some CRC is worried about databases. If you're developing something, interesting, you might say we need a database for it to handle the data, and that's a good opportunity. But you have to be careful. So, if properly made, it can be well adapted to the needs. But the problem is, it's again often an encapsulated solution that is not connected to international standards, and it depends on individuals. So you might again try out Nomad Oasis for your needs. It's not first place a database, but you can use it in that sense, and I recommend to talk with our experts to do so. So I'll be quick then. If you prepare for data-driven research, all this is important. Structured data, structured data, structured data. And I can again say Nomad Oasis is prepared and already works with data-driven research. You can see some examples, the paper showed them nicely, where you can work with this data on Nomad Oasis. So this is something which is convincing, and I would say this is what is today a very good proposal to prepare for data-driven research. And there are other ideas, obviously. Not everything is related to research data management. I think the INF project also allows virtual communication schemes and so on and so forth. So if you have other ideas, this is not limiting what I said. I just wanted to give you some proposals and to discuss them briefly within this short time. Okay, let me summarize. Well, RDN concepts in CRCs and excellence clusters are ranging from basic functionality, that is just storage or an ELN, to very sophisticated and powerful concepts that enable, after all, new data-driven research. So these are enabling technologies. This is why they're interesting. FAIRmat and the Nomad software family can support you, but you need to specify your needs and exploit the full functionality. We recommend, in any case, to align with the NFDI consortium. A chemist should connect to the chemistry, a physicist should align to FAIRmat or whatever. And just align with them, they can support you. This is not true for FAIRmat, this is for all of them, obviously. And I would recommend to avoid encapsulated solutions, not only because it's a waste of effort, also because this is probably seen by the reviewers if it's unconnected. And this is what you said.
we should comment on how is all this connected to the NFDI consortia, because they are the anchor points for your research data management design. So let's stop at this point. I'm open for a question, and there is the panel discussion also after the coffee break.